Hey gang, Will here from the Ashland Fly Shop, back with you with a fishing report for the Southern Oregon, Northern California region, 1st of June, 2020. Lots to discuss, lots of good stuff going on. So let's hop right into it here. Okay, we're going to lead off as we typically do with the Rogue River. Lots of good fishing happening out there. Pretty interesting this year, the main stem Rogue really started off differently from previous years. We seem to have a lot of bugs, maybe most of the bugs, before the trout opener. And so once we got to the trout opener, we actually didn't have too many bugs left around in that upper stretch, like from the hatchery down to Rogue Elk, where we typically just have tons and tons of bugs. Certainly were evidence of bugs all around, and I just think they were out a little early, but the fishing has still been really good up there. Of course, we've had some kind of cyclical days, and it seems like we've had less of the full-on action from all class sizes of fish and more action on bigger fish, which is actually really cool, because then we're hooking less of the smolt that are in the river at this time. So so that's great. So hooking a lot of really nice sized fish. We're going to kind of roll some of them that you're seeing here. Our guides have been out there just really getting some good fish. So really happy about that. Where is it at now? It's definitely on the back end in that stretch. And again, I'm talking about from the hatchery down to like Rogue Elk Park. And that's really where I'd be concentrating my efforts if you're floating the upper river right now. It is good flows. It's 2,000 CFS coming out of the dam. So it's just really good clarity in the river. And some good sized fish still coming up, but just you're really going to be looking for those few good fish out there as opposed to just like all day action. I was just talking to Paul in the shop, and they're just out as it has been, they're finding fish in like stretches. So like 200-yard stretch, of up against the bank, they'll find some good action, and then the next stretch will be quiet. So interesting, but still some really high quality fish coming out of there. And it's probably good for another 5 days or so. Yeah, and it's been solid, and that's what's happening up there. All right, so let's talk about the Holy Water. That's that trout stretch that you may or may not be familiar with, which is between the actual dam on Lost Creek Lake and the spillway at the hatchery there, a little quarter mile or so of trout water, catch and release trout water up there. It's been solid. So in the last few days, it feels like it's really come on, which is kind of perfect timing. Typically when we see the hatch sort of really start to wane on the main stem Rogue is when the Holy Water happens, and that would be now. Just in the last few days, we've gotten really good reports of flies hitting the water, which, as you may or may not know, is when the salmon flies have gone through a lot of their mating and they start to drop the eggs. That's when they hit the water. And when they start hitting the water, that's when things get pretty nuts. And so that's been happening up there. So now we'll get into the meat of the hatch up there, when the flies are hitting the water and the bugs are really tuned into them, and it'll definitely go through another cycle up there with really strong afternoon, evenings, but then the fish start to get caught and it starts to get kind of funny up there too. So, but now's a very good time to be going up there and for another even week or more, and then we'll get into sort of the late end of the hatch, and we'll talk a little bit about that once we get there. But a very good time to be going up there. Again, like I said, it's about 2,000 CFS out of the dam, which is really good flows, and really good wading flows up there. So good fishing happening. As far as flies, for the Holy Water, we're going to stick with the chubbies. We're really happy with how they've been performing. Again, we like the golden, we like the Terra Narcissus. Good time to get into like the stillstone, the Moorish stillstone. That's a very good fly to have at this time in the hatch. Also the Dancing Ricky has been performing really well for us this year. And some nice hairwing fly like a Stimulator or a Normwood Special is always a really good one. So having a few flies to rotate through, because you can't move around a lot up there at the Holy Water too much. So if you're going to be kind of in one section where you're walking up and down a little bit in one area, you're going to want to be rotating through flies. Make sure you have your dry shake, you know, heavier leaders like we've talked about, 2X, 3X, and it should be game on. You know, going in the late afternoon, evening, certainly going to be your best chance to see a lot of fish and bug activity, but don't forget about the mornings and stuff. When the bugs are on the water, can be a pretty good time to be up there too, and it also spreads out the traffic because most people are going to be thinking of the afternoon, evening. So that's what's happening up there. All right, let's talk about the Klamath. The Klamath is been a little off our radar. It's great, great flows down there right now, but just have not got a lot of feedback about stoneflies, which is kind of in keeping with the way it's been the last few years. And if there was one place I'd love to go and see what's happening right now, it would be the Upper Klamath, because I love fishing the stonefly hatch down there. So again, this is the section right below Iron Gate Dam down to like Klamathon Bridge where we see most of the activity. Very similar to the Rogue main stem from the hatchery down to Rogue Elk. It's very similar. You just have more riparian habitat, more trees and stuff up there. I think the bugs, you know, kind of congregate. They like that that type of habitat up there. So, but you know, this would be a very good time to go down there and check it out. I have a couple calls in to people to see what's happening, so feel free to follow up with us, but it very well still could happen in the next couple weeks, or at least be enough activity, you know, to go down and get some fish looking up, which is great because it's a great alternative to the Rogue or some other salmon fly hatches that are happening in the region. It can be very quiet down there and really nice thing to do. So we'll keep you updated on the Upper Klamath, but no real strong news coming out of there right now. Let's talk a little bit about Stillwater. You know, we talk about Stillwater a lot in the very, very early season, you know, like, you know, April, May. It can be really good. And so it sort of drops off and it changes a bit, you know, as we get into some of our warmer weather, which is sort of where we're at. So all the lakes that we talk about, like Howard Prairie, Hyatt, they're really going to be right on the edge. I kind of think they're probably turned off a bit by now. With the water temperature changing a little bit, so you still might be able to go up there and get a couple good trout, but it's hard to say. What's going to start happening is like Klamath Lake and Diamond Lake. Diamond Lake is pretty much game on, but it'll just progressively you know, get even better. I think as we get into like this first part of June and stuff. That higher elevation. So it should be really good out there for your, you know, pulling streamers and fishing chironomids and indicators and stuff like that. Klamath Lake, same story, probably a little bit more chironomid fishing now, bobber fishing than streamers, but I think that's going to change pretty quickly here. I've had some okay reports from the Rocky Point area and a little bit from the kind of Petrick Park, Agency Lake area, but definitely not any really outstanding reports. I'm sure there have been some nice fish caught, but we'll keep you in the loop on that Stillwater fishing as well as we get closer. But yeah, again, you're looking at, you know, small leeches, small you know, small like seal buggers, things like that. That's what I'd be fishing now on intermediate sinking lines and things like that. But we'll keep you updated there as that changes. It's worth talking about the Williamson River. Our guide Paul McDonald has been out there several times. He says, you know, as I would expect, it's definitely kind of slow. He had like a 3-day trip with some folks out there, and they hooked a couple really good fish, landed a couple really good ones. But it's definitely early season. So what it takes to really get the Williamson going in that kind of lower section is for the lake to heat up, and it kind of drives those fish into those springs, creeks and stuff. So that we haven't seen that really happen yet. It's still a good bet. It's a beautiful place to be. The temperature is going to be great. You're going to have some beautiful days there, but the fishing probably is not quite what it'll be until, you know, for another like 30 days or so. So again, we'll keep checking back with you on that and let you know. But if you're looking for a place to have a little solitude and possibly get into a good fish, the Williamson would be a pretty good bet right now. Just going to give you guys a brief recap of NorCal. We were watching last fishing report, and you could literally just copy and paste it right over, honestly, right now. You know, when we talk about NorCal, we're really thinking of, you know, all the rivers that run off of the kind of southern flank of Mount Shasta there, Upper Sacramento, McCloud, Pitt, Hat, Fall, and some of the little creeks there. And this is really the peak time of year to be fishing down there. Springtime really is where you're going to find the most hatches that those rivers are going to produce before we get into kind of the summer doldrums. But they can also fish really good nymphing all the way through, which is a lot of people are very familiar with nymph fishing those rivers, and those tactics are really going to work for you this time of year too. So, but hatches you want to be prepared for, golden stone hatches on the McCloud. We still have yet to probably get to that early June. Upper Sac in the Cantera Loop section, you still can see golden stone hatches lingering. There will be other mixed hatches. There will be PMDs. There will probably be some late blueing olives, you know, some different bugs like that. So lower down on the Upper Sacramento, it's mostly going to be a nymph game with some late PMD hatches. Same on the McCloud, but you're probably going to get into a little more mix of bugs, like I mentioned last week, possibly some larger mayflies, but definitely some PMDs, golden stones yet to come. The Pit, there's a couple complex mayfly hatches that happen, but it's such a great river to nymph fish. Produces so well that we really just kind of talk about that, whether you're tight lining, Euro style, indicator, you know, all that stuff works all through there. Hat Creek again is challenging with hatches as well. Lots of different complex hatches there, but you're late on salmon flies there. I think that's probably pretty wrapped up, and you're really looking for mayfly hatches, PMDs, again, late bluing olives and things like that down there. So it's good to have those. Good to have those in your box wherever you are. Fall River, you may or may not know, but PMDs really kind of rule the day down there. And then pulling leeches on indicator lines and sinking lines also a really good bet on Fall River. It's been producing some very nice fish this year. So look forward to spending more time down there. Have gotten scattered decent to very good feedback from all the Northern California fishing. So if you get down there to do it, now's the time. Yeah, good stuff down there. Okay, there you go. Long-winded report, which it should be this time of year. There's so much going on, so get out there, enjoy. We've all been pent up. Do your best to social distance, do your best to be respectful of people out on the river there. But yeah, now's a great time to get out and do some fishing, some primitive camping, and just enjoy the outdoors. We appreciate you checking in with us. If you have any other questions or details that we can help you with, please give us a call. Thank you so much.